I'm Kevin Bowe, and this is at least half of Communist Daughter. Why don't we introduce ourselves?
I'm Molly.
I'm Johnny.
I'm Dylan. Graduated December of 2012. So
Cum
From
laude,
IPR.
cum laude, right? Weren't you?
Yeah.
You were like you
Yeah.
did well.
yeah.
Dylan's a
Nice.
former student of mine, and the coolest thing about anything ever is that Dylan met these guys in my AP 282 class and started working with the band, and now he's in the band. And there's pretty much nothing that makes me happier than that.
One day you too could be in Communist Daughter.
Anyway, so did we meet through the guy who owned your original label, Mike? Is that how we met?
Yeah, I think so.
And you just came in to record in AP 282, and we kind of got to be pals, and we've worked together ever since. And we're at least halfway, if not more, through producing your guys' new record together. That we've done a lot of it here at IPR, and then the rest of it in my studio. But so there's a bunch of stuff we can talk about. We can talk about. I always like to get a little history first, which you may or may not want to disclose.
Oh, I'm happy to disclose.
Really?
He loves
All
right.
talking about himself.
What did you just say?
I said he loves talking about himself.
That's why we get
Can we
along so
cut
well.
her
I love talking
microphone?
about myself too. It's great, isn't it? Who else are we going to talk about?
No kidding.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about Molly, that's for sure.
Yeah, not anymore. We can just turn this now.
Okay.
Are you from? You're from like the Dust Bowl or something, right?
I'm from Missouri. I'm from Liberty, Missouri, which you probably drove through in your last little.
I may have shut my eyes and missed it.
Yeah,
On the way to South by, I think we did.
Yeah.
And how old were you when you got out of that town
I came up here when I was 18.
to go to college?
Yeah.
And you were already playing music down there though?
No, I mean, I get like through, everybody's got that standard church choir kind of.
Not everyone.
Okay, sorry. Southern people have that.
Jews, we don't do the whole choir thing.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah. But you weren't you weren't writing songs when you were a little kid back then?
No, I didn't even actually pick up the guitar until I was 18, and even then I picked it up in a very uncomfortable way for my roommate. So
But when you were in college, is that when you got your first band together sometime during that time?
yeah, in college, I went actually I was a singer, and so I went for music, and I really wanted, and I didn't get into music because it came easy to me. I got into it because it was like a mystery. It was so exciting because I had no idea how to do it, and so.
You were studying theory and vocal
Yeah.
performance and all
Yeah.
this?
And I was pretty bad at it. I mean, I was lucky to graduate, and yeah, seriously, it was. But it was one of those things where it's like for me, I would rather learn something and really learn it, not just go to a school and get like the rubber stamp of like, yeah,
Right.
you know how to do that. And so
Right, especially with something like music where you it's kind of an all or nothing thing
Yeah.
in a way. I mean, half measures avail us nothing in music, a couple other things. So did you meet the guys in Friends Like These in college?
I met.
Or Adam?
Yeah, I met Adam, and we after college, like the last year in college, I was intent on. I met some of the Twin Cities musicians, and I went to school at St. John's University, which was like an hour and a half north, and I started driving down 3-4 times a week to.
Was there a band in particular or two that you found really inspiring that really made you think, I have to do this?
Well, locally,
Yeah.
I really.
Or nationally.
Yeah, I guess. Well, like nationally, I really started. Let's just talk locally. I got into Kid Dakota and Johnny Hermanson, who was Alva Star and Story Hill, and I actually kind of one of the ways that because I was really into like I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna learn. Those guys were still at the level where they were in their early 30s at the time, and you can really get anybody in their early 30s to do anything if you offer them money.
Yeah, not even that much.
Yeah, really. We're really poor all around.
Well, it's like being in Guatemala. If you have $10 in your pocket, you're the richest guy in town. You know what I mean?
But I,
Sad, but true.
I talked to Johnny Hermanson about teaching me songwriting for like $40 a half hour every 2 weeks or something. I would go in.
That's a great idea, though. That took some gumption, because a lot of people have those ideas, but they never like put it together to like, hey, maybe I should just ask this guy.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there was
brash.
It was definitely like there was awkwardness of me being like, I love it. Teach me everything, but it was.
He probably liked it.
Yeah, and it was cool to learn, especially to put to use everything that I loved music and I studied it in college, but that didn't mean that I understood how to make it, like, put it together and then I started working with Johnny, and he taught me a lot about just crafting songs,
Well, you chose wisely also, because he's like a really nice person. He's a good guy.
Yeah. And then through him, I like Darren Jackson. I met Kid Dakota and Eric Applewick, who most famously, I guess, was Tapes and Tapes, but
a lot of other cool projects though too.
Yeah. And so then, I just surrounded myself with people that if they were good at music, then I wanted to glom onto them and learn something. So
yeah, that's an important thing right there. That's why I'm always happy when a lot of kids come to the DIY 360 thing, because it's like, I stock this thing up with quality people, and if there's not very many people, I'm here like, what would anyone have better to do than this, to get in a room with these people and see this? Because I'm the same way. It's like you always want to be. I just read this biography of a famous music business executive while we were on this tour, and the title of the book is Bumping into Geniuses, Danny Goldberg. And Ahmet Ertegun, the president of famous president of Atlantic Records, said, if you want to make it in music, walk around, and every time you bump into a genius, hang on and don't let go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Friends Like These came after college?
Yeah, Friends Like These was kind of my early 20s. I'm super awesome, and in your early 20s, you're super awesome.
You guys got some traction though. You did. Yeah. You made how many records?
Well, we made. It's hard to say because it got kind of iffy at the end. But we made one full length.
That's why they call it the end.
Yeah. We made one full length that wasn't technically released, but it got a big national splash. And which is how things, where if people can't get it, then everybody wants it, and it was amazing to us because it's not like we didn't want to give it to people. It was just that we were lacking that all important
organizational thing.
And
I know what you mean though. It's just like, have you heard that record? No, but I love it.
Well, you can't get it. Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to tell all my friends about it.
Yeah. Have you ever met her? No, but she's awesome.
It's really.
But did you guys do some touring, or was it more?
Yeah, and we did one full length record where it was just me and Adam and some hired guns like Eric Fawcett, who then he went on to play in NERD, and he would send us he would call us whenever he was next to Beyonce or Justin Timberlake. He'd be like, "Guess where I am right now?" And it's like, well, probably not sitting on the porch with us. So,
that's funny.
Yeah, so so that was a guy who got away from me. But then we put an EP together that Craig Finn and sang on before. That was another one where it was like, I don't know if you guys know Craig Finn from the Hold Steady.
This is back when between Lifter Puller and Hold Steady?
Yeah, and I was a huge fan of Craig Finn, and I just emailed him and was like, hey, will you sing on our record? And since he hadn't started the Hold Steady yet, and it was after Lifter Puller, he was like,
sure.
You guys know who I am? Awesome. Yeah, I'm not doing anything this weekend.
And you'd be surprised how many people are like that. Sometimes you feel like, oh, I can't do that. But it's rare you meet a musician who doesn't want to make music. And so you might not be able to get a return email from Justin Timberlake or Beyonce, but if it's a local person and you have a few bucks to throw their way, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. You should never. And besides, the worst thing, what's the worst thing? It's not like they're going to come over and hit you in the face for asking them. Right. Most of the time, they're going to say yes, way more often than you might think.
And one of the things that, people will still say, like, oh, Johnny, Craig Finn and Johnny were friends or something. And it's like, I met him twice, like I have his email address. That's about the extent of, I met him out in New York. Yeah, I met him out in New York after he recorded. Like, I emailed him the tracks, he recorded them. Then we met in New York and we recorded a thing. We hung out like once or twice. Sure. And that's the extent of my interaction with him. And he's a great guy, but, it's not like I didn't guilt him into anything.
You don't go fishing, camping together, nothing like that.
No, why is he going camping? Did he not invite me? Or?
We've been camping. No, kidding. Then after Friends Like These, I know you went through a tough personal time, and then at the end of that started to come this thing.
Yeah, well, to be honest, at Friends Like These, in your 20s when you're making rock music and think you know everything, it was really easy for me to get into drugs and alcohol, and that's what I did. And like mental things start coming out when you're 20s, especially if you're doing drugs. And that kind of ruined everything that Friends Like These had going on for it. And so I kind of ducked out of the limelight, and I thought I was done making music. But then you keep writing even though I didn't want to be playing. And so I started writing. I had an album even though I wasn't intending on having an album necessarily.
One thing I've always wondered about, and I've actually never asked you this, Friends Like These, musically, very, very different from Communist Daughter. Is that because, obviously one of the keys to me as a co-producer of the record is the thing that happens when you two sing together. It's like Simon and Garfunkel. Paul Simon's awesome alone, but Simon and Garfunkel, it's a 1 + 1 = 5 thing. Yeah. So obviously that's something that defines the sound of Communist Daughter. But in the writing also, what happened in between? Just getting older?
I'd say it's getting older, but it's also like coming to terms with when I was in Friends Like These, my worldview was that people just didn't get it yet, or they hadn't, not enough people had heard my music, or they hadn't, we just, nobody had discovered us yet. But then I started to come to terms with a lot of my own faults of drinking and drugs and how I caused a lot of the problems. And I didn't necessarily want to write songs about by looking down on people anymore. I felt like
but
I was.
It is a difference between your 20s and 30s. In your 20s, a lot of writers are looking out. In your 30s, you're looking in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It sounds like Communist Daughter, more of your songs are about, even if you're writing about a character where it's not first person or whatever, it's still in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's more personal, more intimate, I guess, songwriting or whatever.
And I think that I made a conscious decision too when I was writing after Friends Like These to not, I wanted to be earnest after, I thought I was.
Oh yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah.
Which is not in vogue right now.
No. People don't generally. It's easier to make fun of somebody when they're being earnest.
Or be ironic.
Yeah.
Am I kidding? Am I not kidding? I don't know. I'm so clever.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say. Am I winking? Or do I just have something in my eye? Yeah. There's a lot of that on the radio right now. But your songs are actually kind of about what they're about.
I try to be that way, yeah.
Let's hear one.
Oh, man.
I thought that was a great segue. Do you guys feel that? That was seamless.
Yeah, I just made that noise because we are recording a record means that my brain isn't really wrapping around songs that I can play start to finish so much. Anyways, let's just do soundtrack. You put on a pretty face and we never saved our money. And then you got stuck in place, and we lost our milk and honey. And all the songs were new, and they broke our hearts in two, and we still walked away. And I just pushed on through, and I made my muscles move, so I don't have to stay. And all the hearts are breaking, there's music all around, and all the walls are shaking, and our love was a sound. Our love was a sound. You took 6 of one and nothing from the dozen. I guess I never need another hand to stay awake or get me right up to the break. I'll break one way or other, and some of the best of us are already home, still singing softly through my stereo. And although we tried to make the only amends, now it's just a soundtrack to the end. And all the songs were new, and they broke our hearts in two, and we still walked away. And I just pushed on through, and I made my muscles move, so I don't have to stay. And it's not right to carry on. It might be over, but she isn't gone. You never listened anyway. Oh, and all the hearts are breaking. Oh, there's music all around. Oh, and all the walls are shaking. Oh, our love was a sound. Hearts are breaking. Oh, there's music all around. Oh, and all the walls are shaking. Oh, our love was a sound.
So that's off the soundtrack to the end, the album that you guys put out like 2 years ago.
Yep, that was in Grey's Anatomy too.
That song was in Grey's Anatomy, and that got a lot of play on The Current here in town. That was been really great about introducing people to your music and helping you build that home base. And then also these guys just got off of, a couple months ago they got home from how long was the tour opening for Jason Isbell, the 400 unit? Jason Isbell was from originally in Drive By Truckers, and that was how many dates?
Well, with Jason, it was. Sorry, I realized that Dylan. I'm just.
No, man.
No, we're gonna get these two.
Okay.
We're gonna get these two in a second.
Jason Isbell. Yeah, we did like 17 dates with Jason, but we were on tour for a good 50 dates probably in there, and Jason was the end of them. Yeah.
That was a long
Yes.
haul.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
So we're going to make Molly talk about Molly, something she probably loves to do. Let's get right up on that, Mike. So where are you from? Where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in St. Paul.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Where you guys live
here.
now.
Mm-hmm.
And what were you up to musically before Communist Daughter? Had you ever sung in a band or done any public performance of any kind?
No, besides I was raised in the church, and so I sang in like the worship band. But that's about it.
I can hear a little of that in your voice, especially on a song like that.
Really?
Yeah, just a little bit.
I did choir, in high school.
Kind
In
of the
choir.
Western classical.
Yeah, and the discipline in your
Yeah.
voice, the close harmonies, and the way you're like end your phrases when the lead vocal ends. It really adds to the blend. I can hear the.
We didn't
the
start
training.
as a church band, just so like we didn't come from the church. Just not
Church.
like
Not like we're
not that-
anti-church.
Yeah.
Just saying.
not that there's anything wrong with that.
Let's
but
talk
I
about
just
religion.
Really,
So when you first started playing with this group, it's because you met Johnny and you guys just started singing together. And then how long did it take before you figured out that this was like something?
Oh man,
She still
I
has
still
been.
haven't figured that out.
You
no,
must have had a glimmer though that your guys' voices worked together in a different and cooler way than most. I mean, you can't just get two great singers together and have them. You know what I mean? Sound like Crosby, Stills, and Nash or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
I felt a
luck.
sense of like magic being there. Like yeah, I felt like it was more special than the way that I've interacted with other
she didn't have
voices, I guess. But I definitely didn't have the drive to sing in front of people. Like when we
Did you have a drive to not sing in front of people?
Yes, I was like, I will sing on your album, but I do not want to be in the band. I don't want to sing in front of people. And he a little bit tricked me into it.
We said we were playing a
Good.
rehearsal, which it just happened to be a rehearsal dinner for Melissa Merritt's. You know Melissa Merritt's?
At the time, she was the editor one of the editors of Rolling Stone magazine.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, we're just doing this little get-together for my friend that's getting married. And little did I know, it was like the editor of Rolling Stone magazine. I was like, oh, my God, I'm going to pee my pants.
Were you pissed afterwards?
Yeah, well, a little bit. I was angry with you.
And now
Fit
grateful.
right in with things, you know?
I'm getting better at public singing and speaking, but
Well, when I've seen you guys live, you seem like you're totally comfortable on stage. Obviously, you're not
Yeah.
like, a go-go dancer up there or anything like that, but you don't
get
look
used to it.
uncomfortable.
You get used to it, and you find like a way that you can, almost like be another person. It's just
Totally.
like think of it as this isn't really. I mean, it is you, but it's not.
It's an idealized
you put
version
on a
of
face,
you.
yeah, and it's not as intimidating when you think
It's
of it
rock
that way.
you as opposed to like living room or kitchen you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like it's this like amped up version of yourself. But that's what people are paying to see. So this is a stupid, hackneyed, cliched question, but you're in a band with a bunch of dudes touring. What's up?
I got pretty lucky. It helps that Johnny and I are together, so it's like nobody's gonna mess with me. But
There's no jerks in your band. That's
No,
what I
they're
tell
all
people.
really
What's it
nice.
like working with Communist Daughter? And I'm like, because
They're
it's
really
not
nice
always
guys.
the case. There's usually like one guy as a producer. There's one guy in the band where when you have to do that person's tracks or work with them, you're like, and that guy just isn't in your band.
yeah,
Well,
You know.
it
Got
goes
really lucky.
it goes back through. I mean, Communist Daughter had plenty of people in it before we settled on this lineup, but I remember getting sober and having this conversation where it was like, if I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life, I don't want to hang out with that one guy.
Yeah.
And hard decisions you make where it's like, that guy's a great player, but I just don't want to
Not
be in a
worth it.
van with
Yeah.
him. So
Yeah. There's being in a band with someone, and then there's being in a van with someone.
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a tough one. Now, Dylan, your situation is you're, well, I guess you and the drummer are like the newest people in the band, and also the youngest.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say the twins.
The twins, yeah, yeah. Well, all you Scandinavians do look alike to me, so whatever. But so your experience must be, have looking at this through different colored sunglasses because you're, how old are you?
I'm 29.
Oh, you are 29, so
Yeah.
you're not
I'm
like
the
a little
youngest
pup.
of them.
She said, I'd like to go on record as saying I'm the youngest. But you just graduated from IPR, and you were kind of like popped into this band that's pretty far along doing,
His first
big time touring.
What was your second or third show? Was First Ave?
Yeah, it was the third. Second show was the Varsity. Yeah.
How did you feel for that? For those first few big shows? I mean, I've had you in my class. We've gotten to be friends. I know you pretty well. You're a pretty cool customer. But on the inside, were you bugging?
Yeah. I mean, I spent a lot of time listening to Communist Daughter when it was in the works that I was going to be working for them. At first, it was going to be I was just going to be a sound guy and possibly doing more like auxiliary. The way I looked at it, it was pretty ambitious on my part. I thought I was going to be like taking parallel lines from John's guitar and like having an effects processor and doing things like that. But it turned out to be more of a traditional role.
Turned out to be tambourine, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how they get you. I've been fooled before. Yeah.
There is a song where I'm just
my favorite
tambourine.
My favorite beginning Dylan moment though was when we were sound checking First Ave, and like it was your third show, so right when he plugs in, and it was like that room's huge, and when there's nobody in it, it's crazy loud, and it was just like. I gotta turn that down a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you hear the reflections off the back wall, and it is a bit intimidating at first when you're playing those bigger venues.
It's a great room when it's full of people, though, and
Yeah.
you're rocking and stuff. There's not a better sounding stage
Yeah.
that I've ever played.
It's scary when it's empty.
Yeah, and lonely. But that's okay. Conrad's there to hold your hand. Okay, so the first album went really well, and you guys. Well, one interesting thing about this band is that there's a lot of indie rock bands around that aren't really that indie as far as they don't run their own business and stuff. But you do all your own booking.
Yes.
And you, until pretty recently, did all your own management.
Yeah, well, and a lot of that comes from the fact that I'm 2.5 years sober, but the band's been together for 3.5 years. So there's a good year in there where maybe it was more not my choice. Like nobody wanted to touch me with a 10-foot pole because I was kind of a disaster. But
when I first started telling people I was working with you guys, I did get a few views askance.
Yeah, well.
I was like, no, this is cool. Okay.
Well, yeah. But now it's, I mean, one of the
now
things.
Those people look stupid.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I realized and everybody said it to me, and it's advice you don't want to hear, where it's like, if you can't do it for yourself and make money, then nobody is going to want to do it for you. And so, like, booking and, I mean, managing and things like that, it's like, if you're not already, like, you have to be able to know what it is. I mean, like, there's definitely, like, pluses to having a manager now who can come in and say, here's our game plan.
Right.
But, yeah.
You got it pretty far along on yourself, and
we had to make enough money that it was worthwhile for a manager to come in.
But
and
it
say,
kind of turns out that you're pretty good at it, because you did. I've seen this with a lot of other bands. You actually did a really good job. You were booking your band to the point where you were booking, wide-ranging tours, and at least regionally here, you guys were starting to make some pretty good money, all built up from your own management and booking. And that's kind of rare that you get a good musician. That is also good at that. I'm not saying you want to be doing it, because I know you.
Well, I
don't.
think also though that, I mean, I'm not good at it, but I'm
gotta
33.
say I disagree.
I'm 33 now, and I've been doing it long enough that you have to learn. And if you choose not to learn, then you just won't make it. And
that is what weeds a lot of artists out.
Yeah.
They aren't able to manage their own career to the point where, I mean, you get 10% of nothing is nothing.
Yeah.
And anyone who you can get to work for nothing is worth every penny.
Yeah,
So if you get some,
exactly.
like, well, my Uncle Bob books our band. Oh God. club owners don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of discipline in your work ethic, and a lot of people, and I know that stuff it's
icky.
It's icky.
Yeah.
And you have to talk to some icky people, and also in the beginning, you have to put up with being treated like crap via phone or email, or people not returning your
And one of the things though I learned, and it's funny that it's like all these advice that I want to go back and give myself or give younger people is, I think, advice that everybody had given me already, but I just chose not to listen to. But one of them was like, when you are new and bottom of the barrel and just starting out, or like if nobody cares about who you are, it's like you have to put up with a lot of things. But at the same time, it's like, if you believe that you'll eventually be out of there, you don't want to be a dick back to people, because...
And that's where I run into trouble.
Well,
it's hard for me not to return the serve. If I've gotten way better.
Oh, I was horrible at it.
Yeah.
I mean...
It's a learned skill.
Yeah. And then you get to... It's funny how, like, especially, being around music for a while, where it's like, man, that one kid that I was so annoying backstage in the opening band is now like, could hire and fire me, cleaning his house because he's made it in music.
Yeah.
And you learn that the hard way, but it's also, it's great now to be able to, now that I've put in 2.5 years.
It's
sobriety.
true though. It's the oldest music business advice or business advice in the business. And my mom always used to say this: don't poop where you eat.
Yeah.
It's like you never know, that person that you treat like dirt, they're going to end up to be, the booking agent, the talent buyer at First Avenue. And then you're ruh-roh.
And a lot of the things is like when you have a bad experience with somebody, if you step back and take your own personal feelings out of it, you might realize that it's completely not anything that you thought it was. Like,
yeah.
I know now that, like, being in the position I am where people come up to me and, I feel bad if, oh no, I think I might have just given them the experience that I had with it,
It requires a lot of energy and discipline, especially on a night when you're doing a show, which is very physically and emotionally taxing, to then make sure that you're, maintaining proper decorum with everybody.
And, the industry, the way that I say the industry because it's all one big, happy family. But people definitely play off this idea of musicians are jerks and they're crazy and they're, and it's like, there's maybe 1 out of 1,000 people that are like that, and they got famous when they were kids, and so they can do that, where I couldn't tell you a guy who started to make it in his 20s, late 20s, that wasn't an awesome, nice guy who did the work.
They've already been sanded down. Life has sanded them down. Any rough edges they might have had.
They did the work.
Except Molly. It must be tough for you being in a band with Molly where she's constantly
she doesn't know what
assaulting people, being really rude, and you have to clean up after that, and that's got to be hard for you.
It's a struggle every day.
Yeah, I can tell. I know, when she starts hitting me physically in the studio because of a mix move, a bad fader move or whatever, it hurts. Hurts me as a man. I just wanted to say that in front of everybody. Thanks for letting me get that off my chest. Do you guys want to have another song? Can we con you into doing one other one?
Yeah. I don't know which one to do.
Do that one.
Which one? Just the one that's
good.
What?
Tumbleweed's good.
Oh. Yeah. Seriously, I honestly, I picked up the guitar. Let's just do Not the Kid because it's on the radio. When we were younger, we had nothing to do. We closed our eyes and spin around in circles, happy to hit the ground, or happy to just fall down. When we were younger, we'd go down to the park. We'd catch all the fireflies and put them in jars. We never knew that they'd die. We never really thought that far. I'm not the kid you knew. I'm not the kid you remember. When we were younger, we were scared of the dark. We closed our eyes and pulled the sheets over our head. We didn't want to see what's there, like the shadows under the bed. And now that I'm older, I look back on those days. I wish I had them back, 'cause the shadows are gone, or at least they're not that strong as the shadows in my head. I'm not the kid you knew. I'm not the kid you remember. I'm not the kid you knew. I'm not the kid you remember. 1985, well, there was a picture taken with my name on it, climbing an apple tree with blue shoes. You think it was me? I could swear it was you. I'm not the kid you knew. I'm not the kid you remember. I'm not the kid you knew. I'm not the kid you remember. I'm not the kid you knew. I'm not the kid you remember.
Any of you cats have questions for these guys? There's one over there. Say the question, and I'll repeat it on the mic so we get it on the video feed. How did you go about getting your song played on Grey's Anatomy?
Well, it's kind of a convoluted thing, but we put out our record on Grain Belt Records, which is a local record label, a smaller thing that, and you know, we got Play in the Current and everything, but there's also, I guess, they're music placement companies that, you know, their job is to pitch songs to music supervisors who work for, it's a whole lot of middlemen, but basically we got in with a music placement company that pitched, and it still pitches our songs, and I'm sure there's plenty of music placement companies that work our stuff, but
there's a ton of them, especially since a good 65 to 70% of the people that worked at publishers and labels in the heyday, the 90s, got fired, and most of them started music placement services.
That's where, like, all of the, I shouldn't say all, but that's where a large part of money changing hands is going on now. So, I mean, so a lot of it is luck, but I know that there's the music supervisor for Grey's Anatomy is pretty great. They've got a good track record, and they pick a lot of indie bands, and they just happen to dig ours. So
music placement services, those song pluggers, or this is the service that publishers offer people that they sign, in theory, Anyway, let's have another question. No question is too personal or
Over there.
inappropriate. There's one. Hit me. Make something up. That's what I do. As a teacher, that's actually what I do every day. What inspired you to make you who you are today? That must have been all the people that were coming up to you saying, you should be somebody else.
Yeah.
That's
Actually,
what did it for me.
You know, that's I feel like actually my new record is dealing with a lot of you know, you don't get to as much as as people want to say like this is who I am. That's, you know, you get to a place in your life where it's like, no, not who you want to be is not who you are. It's who you, like, everything that you've done and everything that all your failures and your successes. And so I guess, like, for me, I mean, it's a constantly changing thing, but I feel like I'm dealing a lot with, you know, just coming to terms with like my own sobriety issues and, you know, like I don't know, having Molly.
Yeah. The answer for a lot of people is what makes us who we are today is the mistakes.
Yeah.
Because I always say we don't learn nothing from the good times.
Yeah.
If I'm having a great day and everything's going my way, I'm like, I don't need to learn nothing. Obviously, I already know it all. But on the days where I really screw something up, you know, the other 6 days of the week, then those are the days that make you who you are.
Yeah.
I think, and those are the things that we write songs about, or the good ones, the more interesting songs. Where's another question? There we go. What do you use to inspire your writing?
You know, there's a lot of ways to go about it. I try and focus on like one 15-second emotion that, you know, like a strong emotion, and then I try and build a song around what situation led to that. But that being said, it's almost all work, even though I want it to be like this great emotional, like inspirational moment. I find that most of the songs are inspired by 125 hours of sitting there and changing one word back and forth, and
like a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, it really is. And it's, you know, I mean, like, we're going through this now a lot where it's like Kevin's now heard these songs in so many different forms, and we build it and then we strip it back and then we change this and we build it again. And I feel like, you know, in the end, if it sounds inspired and you know, like I want it to sound like it came out easy, but it never does.
No, I'm okay with being spontaneous as long as I have 6 months to prepare. That's what making records is like. Yeah. It's supposed to be easy to listen to, but they're not hard. They're not easy to make most of the time. Yeah. And also your method, that's interesting, because your method of working, I'll admit to you now, when we first started this record, and I kind of figured out, and you told me that the way Johnny works on records is about the polar opposite of the way I build tracks. You like to record everything but the kitchen sink. Then he takes the session home and he mutes stuff and he gets rid of stuff. And I'm always like, I build it in my head and do the editing in my head. And when I record something, 90% of the time, that's the thing that, because that's the, you know, unless I start doing it and it sucks, then I'll just quit. But you like have this, like the Marines motto, kill them all and count them later. And at first I was like, well, that's just the dumbest way to make a record ever. But I didn't say anything because we didn't know each other that well. And also I thought, well, I should be open-minded and blah, blah, blah. And now I'm seeing, as we're halfway through the record, the unbelievable artistic value and joy in working that way and the results that you come up with. And it's awesome. I don't know that I could ever do a record of my own that way, but it's really opened my eyes
well,
to a different way of working.
And that's, I mean, like it's what works for, you know, you find what works for you, where at the same time, like I am definitely loving the other side of things where it's like, you kind of nail me down to like before I didn't have to worry about tones or anything. Cause it was like, if I record 300 guitars and then I'll just pick one in the middle or 4.
Oh,
and
right.
So there's much more thought going into things when I can,
on the engineering side.
yeah.
But I don't know if I've ever been this involved in a record where I was doing more engineering and less like production. Because right from the beginning, I realized like all I have to do is set the mics up right and shut up, and don't get involved in the creative process or anything like that, at least thus far. Because the more I don't do that, the better this record sounds. Because you got a thing.
But I feel like you have followed along with my train of thought the whole time. So as soon as I have an idea, 9 times out of 10, I'm like, what do you? And you say it before I'm like even ready to.
It's so obvious that what you're doing, I'm sure that you two have been in key with this. You have, as a producer, if the artist has great songs, okay, check. The songs are great. You're not bringing in any song that you didn't really work on. By the time I hear it, you already know it's pretty good. You're not just like throwing turds against the wall. And the same thing with having the artist has the right people in his band. It's not like, okay, I'm not going to come in as a producer on this record and go, this whole thing of you and Molly singing together, that's not going to work. Because it's so obvious that's the thing. That's one of the things that makes your band have an identity, you know. And the same thing with you, Dylan, like the synth parts you're playing as we're tracking in master mix. It's like the sounds are, you're producing yourself. It's already produced. Plus you kind of are a producer already anyway, so you're able to stand back far enough from the elephant to see the whole thing.
Yeah, and I mean, they change from point A to point B, like when John's going through stuff, and we've handed a lot of tracks back and forth through email and stuff, and it is interesting to see. I mean, the songs maintain their feel and their essence, but they're
different,
augmented differently, or whatever it is. Like parts when Al, the guitar player, puts his guitar parts in, you know, that's usually with these sessions has been like the last part, and it's just neat how it kind of can give sections a little bit of a boost and stuff.
Well,
and
it's easy
and it
as a
doesn't
producer.
change the song, you know.
No, the song is strong,
Yeah.
but it reminds me of like my favorite bands, like The Who, Led Zeppelin, The Band, to name a few, are my favorite bands because each player in the band is so idiosyncratic that you can't trade one out. You know what I mean? And you guys have that thing going because on bass, the bass lines he's writing they're just not what you typically get. You know what I mean? They're very.
He was the lead guitar player in Friends Like These, and that's one of the things that that was an interesting. I think that's where he comes from. Where he comes from lead guitar lines, and moved over to bass.
Here a little bit, but not here because he's playing the bass like a bass player on that all important right hand. But the riffs he's coming up with, they really lock with your main guitar. You know what I mean? And you've got your thing down. You know. I mean, I don't know. I'm never there when you're doing your vocals, but by the time I get them, it's just like, oh yeah, that's Communist Daughter.
I'm also a big proponent, though, and this is something that I'm a huge proponent of musicians who are able to give the song what it needs and not like be like an egotistical musician. Because the thing is, as a band,
parts guys, parts people.
Yeah, it's like as a band, we are Communist Daughter, and if your part gets muted down to one note, it doesn't change the fact that we're going to get on stage and have to play these songs, and you'll have plenty to do. Yeah. And so I feel like, especially with our band, I really like all the guys that I work with because there is no, like, that part was my favorite part and it has to be in there.
No, there's a humility towards the song, I think, in everyone in your band. And it's funny because Al, the guitar player, who I've known a little bit from years past from other bands and stuff, he really brings an interesting, twisted but kind of classic rock. He really is like a classic rocker in indie rock
he likes glam. He likes glam music a lot.
What's that?
He likes glam. Glam rock.
Glam rock, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and it's not like he's Mick Ronsoning all your songs up, but there is that in his playing. You know what I mean? And it really does bring a different flavor. And the way to then it's just a question of how do you make the doily? How do you make everything?
Well, and that's the other
up?
thing is like I really, as much as I like to go back to my room and you know have my alone time with my songs, I also love having these guys. Just I don't tell them like, here is the part where you will be playing, so come in and play this line, you know, because I want them to throw things at me where like the Brooklyn song where it was just like, I never would have thought to put that keyboard part there, and at no time ever would I go, hey Dylan, can you give me a part that goes you know, like, but you know they're free to come to me and with something that, you know, knowing that if it sucks, we'll trash it, but don't throw it out the window before it gets there.
Yeah,
you know?
It really works. It's definitely working for this record. We're almost out of time here. Does anyone else have one last unbelievably poignant or inappropriate question for Communist Daughter? I find that hard to believe. You guys are asking me inappropriate questions all day. There's one. How did you get the name Communist Daughter?
Neutral Milk Hotel, the band. Neutral Milk Hotel. Yeah, it's, you know, when nobody cares about what your band name is, you come up with a dumb band name. And
Echo and the Bunnymen.
Yeah, I know. Like had somebody sat me down and said, like, now pick a name that's gonna sound good on the radio, and when at First Ave when they put it up, and it's like, oh yeah, then I would have thought it. But it was more like, hey, I don't want to tell my 5 friends that are coming to see me that, hey, come see Johnny Solomon play. So
the worst is Johnny Solomon and the Johnny Solomon Band. I hate it when they do that. You see in the suburban bars, you know what I mean? It's just like, you know, Eric Braunschweiger and the Eric Braunschweiger Band. You know, it's just like, why don't you just call it Eric Braunschweiger for one? That drives me crazy. Things like that, and the apostrophe S when it's supposed to be plural. Things like that. I can't sleep when I think of that stuff. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Grammar and punctuation count. Thanks for coming. Big applause for Communist Daughter.